What's up, y'all? I'm Jack. We've probably all hung out. There's a lot of you on the screen right now, and it's so cool. Thank you all for being here. We're going to bring the juice today. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to have a little get moving. We're going to start doing some silly stuff to start. But first, I want to tell you about what's going to happen. Yes, Ian, I'm going to make you come out on the first one if you're down. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of facilitating stuff on Zoom. We're going to have a little bit of fun to kind of show what it can look like. And then we are going to turn it over to Klee, who runs our virtual camp programming for Stomping Ground, to tell us her, I think, 5? Is it 5 tips, Klee? Yes, the big 5. 5 tips for running, being a successful Zoom host. And then she's going to tell us about how to bring the juice, which is what we call how we talk to our staff about doing this on Zoom. And one of the new things for today that we've never done in COCA stuff from us is we're gonna bring a little video into this. So we're gonna share a little video that we'll get started with. And Ian, if you're juiceless, you're useless. So Ian, I'm wondering if I can volunteer you to be a part of this first game. All right, nice. You're in. So unmute yourself, Ian. We're gonna talk. Here's how this game's gonna work. Do you have someone that you think would be fun, just one other person that you would like to have a conversation with?
Absolutely. MJ.
Oh, okay. Carson was like, what about me? But MJ, I'm in. Okay. Here's how this is going to work. This game is called Last Word. You may have played it before. I'm going to give you a prompt to start, and then we could go anywhere. And Ian, you're going to say a sentence. It could be 2 sentences. And then MJ, you're going to respond using the last word in the phrase that Ian says to start the next one. You may have played this before. Then Ian, you're going to come back with the last word in MJ's sentence for your next sentence. We'll go back and forth a couple times. I'll cut you off when I say scene. That'll be the end of it. And we will move on, or maybe we'll play another game. We're going to see how this one goes. Does anyone have a movie or TV show or book that you would like to hear Ian and MJ try and discuss in this very strange, weird framework that we're talking about? Anybody? Harry Potter. I love it. I love the chat. Thank you for using the chat. Okay, Ian, you're going to start, and you don't have to know anything about Harry Potter. But we're going to start from Harry Potter. We're going to see how far afield we might end up. And maybe we'll stay back with Harry Potter. We don't know. Ian, MJ, do you have any questions before we get started?
Is there a loser in this, or is this just...
Everybody wins here. Everybody wins.
Don't
Ready? Ian's like, I'm going to win. MJ already lost. All right, here we go. Ready, set, Ian, kick it off.
As I was walking through the library at Hogwarts, I tripped and fell on my oversized xylophone.
Xylophones are just such a traditional piece of instrument for these songs. It's just so great that we're able to hear them.
Them? I thought you meant us.
Us? I don't know. I just think, like, in general in Hogwarts, it's a really big castle.
Castles? My friend Becca lives in a castle, and she has a pet sloth who feeds on uranium.
Last one, MJ.
Uranium? See, that's pretty dangerous. I heard only dragons are supposed to eat that.
Yes! That was so fun. That was so fun. We call that last word. How many people have played something similar to that before? Cool. That one's super easy. I'm going to send you, I'm not in charge. Klee, are you in charge?
Astin sent the our write-up, so the description for how to run that game on Zoom is in the COCA-I PDF.
But are you in charge right now? Do you have the breakout rooms controls?
Yes, I think so, Astin. Oh. No, I don't have that as an option.
Astin has it. Astin, will you send people into breakout rooms of about 5? About 5, and will you choose 2 people and to run, 1 person volunteer to run the game and 2 people to participate in the game, and that will leave 2 more people as just participants in the game. You all are going to be in those rooms, so you're going to choose how to facilitate that. You're going to figure out how to have those kind of conversations because we all got to start doing this, and it's weird on Zoom. Astin, can you set us up? Boom. And you're going to have 3 minutes in those breakout rooms, so it's going to be really quick. And we'll force you to come back so you don't have to do anything. Astin will just swim you back. Swim you back? That's not how it would be said. All right, Astin, send them. Nice. A bunch of people learning how to do breakout rooms for the first time. That's so cool. If you have questions, let us know. Great. Boom. Debbie, are you frozen or can we help? Looks like frozen. Carson, did you get the boot? We'll put you back in. Don't worry.
Yep.
I got the boot for sure.
Astin, can you help Carson out?
Yep. I can do that.
Dude, it's great. Dude, we're having technical difficulties. Instead,
There you
Carson,
go.
we're hanging out now. We're actually going to play the game right now.
Oh, yeah.
And
Fair
Carson,
enough.
do you want to be someone who is you and I are going to play Astin. Give us a prompt.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
We'll go with outer space.
Okay?
Yeah.
Carson, you go first.
Well, I find planets quite interesting because they're made up of gases and uninhabitable. Nope, am I lagging?
Uninhabitable planets are scary for the sake of the impending alien attack.
Oh, attack.
That's fun. That's fun. That's awesome.
attacks. There's I can't. It's singular. Attack that could happen from a planet would be way above our ability to defend coming from Earth. Did you hear anything I said?
Yep, I got you. Earth? That's where I'm from. All right, Astin,
From
we'll
Earth?
come back in 1 minute.
There's no chance. That's like the most expensive place to live at this point.
I love that. Whoa, that was fun. Carson, where are you from?
What? I'm from Langley, BC, Canada. What about you?
Nice. I'm in Rochester, New
Guys.
York right now. So as far away from you as possible on this continent.
Cool. What about you, Astin? Yeah.
I'm in Atlanta.
Hey, social distancing. Social distance.
To the extreme.
Atlanta, cool. How long have you guys been working for Ground? How long have you guys been working for COCA-I and Stomping Ground?
We started camp 6 years ago, so 6 years now. And Astin, you just started, right? Technically with COCA.
Yeah, technically. Yeah. So I've been involved with COCA for like 9 years. And like a month ago, Don was like, we need some help with virtual programming. And I was like, I can do that. All right. You guys ready to close this thing up?
Close them up.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
All right. They've got 60 seconds.
Save the world.
The end of it. Only got 60 seconds. Save the world. Oh,
I bet it would look really strange if it was lagging and I was juggling. Oh, it actually was lagging.
yeah.
That was a lag. It
Looks
wasn't
like you're
real.
just holding 3 in the air for me.
That's cool.
Oh, okay, good.
Welcome back, y'all.
Thanks for
Welcome back. What? I'd like to hear from 3 people. What was that like? Anybody, just jump right in.
Difficult.
Difficult?
Good practice.
Good practice?
That
Yeah,
I
that was
know
good.
my person really well that I work with.
That was
Love
good
that.
practice, just going to the other room and being aware of the time. But that was very fun.
Awesome. Thanks. So those are called, if you haven't done a breakout room, those are that's how a breakout room works. And that's kind of how a relatively simple game can work. In our experience, games take like a little bit longer to play on Zoom because there's more kind of weird things that people are working out. And almost always when we run breakout rooms, someone gets like stuck in the main kind of room area. So that's okay. Like Carson and I just played the game in the main area, which is fine. But just kind of being aware that it's not perfect and we just make it work like we do at camp. We make accommodations for 10,000 things all the time when we're in person together. The same is true online. Klee, I'm going to turn it over to you for your 5 tips for facilitating. And these are things that we use with staff. Some of them may be things that you've already heard or thought of. No stress from us. What we're trying to do is boil it down to the easiest way possible to explain to new folks, if that's you, if you're new to working on Zoom, or to you teaching your staff. Awesome. But we're trying to distill it down to be as simple as possible for folks, because it is this weird world of now we're online, and I have a tendency to kind of jump way forward to like, okay, now here's these like really like kind of advanced ideas. How do we talk about blah, 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 blah. And we have to keep reminding ourselves that this is new and we need to start from scratch, start from the beginning, what matters to get started, and then we can all level up as we getting into that. So Allison, I'm sorry, many people probably don't know that your name's Allison Klee. Klee, kick it off.
Nice. All right, so first, before I get into the tips, I'm going to show that video Jack mentioned. This is about a 3-minute video about the hidden curriculum, which is a term that explains the unspoken rules or norms of different spaces. So summer camp has a ton of them, right? If you were like an alien and you were landed in summer camp, you see humans singing songs, people are wearing wigs, they have paint all over their face. Summer camp looks super weird to outsiders. And so we are going to watch this video to give us all some common language about what the hidden curriculum is, and then talk about what it looks like on Zoom to give some more facilitation tips. So I'm going to share that now.
That's what we call that's what Sylvia Van Meerten, who's our board chair, calls the hidden curriculum. And you may have seen it. It's in there, she didn't make up the term. Anyway, it's funny to watch that video now, thinking about the hidden curriculums that are being developed and thought through around everyday life. Like, when is it okay to, when should we be wearing masks? What does it look like to walk around on the street? How do you greet people? All of that is like weird hidden curriculum that now we're forced to talk about. And it's our job in these Zoom meetings, as the host of the Zoom meeting, to set that curriculum as directly as possible for folks so they can be as comfortable as possible. So that's what Astin does at the beginning of all these calls so well. He's like, hey, will you please turn on your video if it's okay, because it makes us all more of a community. He sets that all up in spoken and unspoken ways, by playing music, by asking for those things, by when we arrive, he always has that awesome like 4 bullet points that are kind of displayed right when you see that. You can just read it. It's our job as the host to set that hidden curriculum and make it as explicit as possible so new folks know how to act when they come into this space. Klee.
Great. So our first tip then is to have a clear introduction. So like Jack said, the way Astin does that is he's playing music and he has the slides up. When a song ends, he says how many more songs he's going to play, so that when I enter this call, I know what's happening. I know there's no pressure for me to communicate or anything. I'm hanging out until everybody arrives. When Astin decides to start, he says that and continues with what he's going to say. So for me, when I host calls with our campers, I don't always have a slide, but I might be talking. When I see MJ pop on, I might say, hey, MJ, right now we're talking about what we had for breakfast as we wait for everybody to go on. Once I want to start, I say, let's get started with the activity now. And as more, if people come on late, I'll catch them up. So that's what it means to have a clear introduction. Number two, the host should be in charge of monitoring the chat in the event that kids start to disagree or they're arguing with each other in the chat. The way we talk to our staff about this is having them pause the activity and saying, hey, Jack, it looks like you're frustrated with Leah right now in the chat. Can you tell me what's going on? Because it's really hard for me to hear your tone. And we have found that making an agreement as a group and addressing this in the beginning of calls to say the chat is to build each other up and not disagree or express that you're annoyed with someone. If you're feeling that way, that's okay, but you have to go off mute to say that so we can really talk about it. Number three is to help staff by narrating what's happening. So especially for, let's say I was the host while Jack was the facilitator teaching us how to play last word. After he says the activity, I might narrate again. Okay, Jack, so what's going to happen is I get to listen to Beth and Michael talk about, what example did you use? Harry Potter, and then you might pick more volunteers. That's a way for Jack to say yes. Another tangible thing that we do with our campers is let's do a thumb scale check-in. If last word makes sense, thumbs up. If you're a little bit confused, sideways. If you have no idea what's going on, thumbs down. That frees up the facilitator to focus on their activity, and you can kind of catch kids who might be confused or lost about what's going on.
And Klee, if you haven't been to one of these from before, what we do is we make sure that on all of our Zoom calls with kids that we have at least 2 staff. One of them we call the host. That person would be like what Astin is doing for us right now. And the second person we call either the performer or the facilitator. And so our hosts are always kind of more highly trained in how to do Zoom stuff. And then our facilitators, we do a shorter training with them around how to get into this so that they can come on and just be fun and silly and not have to know the ins and outs of how to do breakout rooms and all those kind of things.
Yes. A couple more things. Number 4 is, as the host, there should be a clear ending to the call. So a great way to throw in some of your camp's values is you can debrief a session, and then we tell our staff to say what's next. As the host, thank the facilitator for leading an activity, and then say goodbye everybody and end the call for all. So the button at the bottom of our screens right now that says leave meeting, if you're the host, there will be an option that says end meeting for all, and that's what you want to do so that nobody's staying on or confused about how to log off. And then lastly, number 5, bring the hype. As the host, like Astin kind of mentioned this in the beginning, he's wearing his headband that he wears at camp, so that would be familiar to campers or other staff who came on. Playing music is a great way to set the tone for whatever kind of activity you're doing, whether that's lower or higher energy. We've done a couple themed things like Frozen Party or baking. It's really fun if our staff have an apron or a chef hat, or I made like a crown for Frozen Party just by printing something off at home. And we like to say to our hosts, be the kind of participant that you would want to have if you were leading a session. So those are, again, the 5 big keys to hosting. I'm now going to send in the chat the juice. Jack, is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say that Astin posted these earlier, and he'll send them out in an email, so you'll get the notes from all of this as well as the notes for how to play the games. With our staff, we use the acronym JUICE to help them remember what's going on, and we talk a lot about just bringing the juice. They're fairly self-explanatory. Keep it moving. It's more important in Zoom that things move and that you take the lead than it tends to be in real life. Not that this isn't real life. I'm still trying to train myself to say in person instead of real life, because this is real life. It's just weird. That you need a plan on what's going to happen, and it's sometimes hard for some of our staff who are really good at in-person camp, who can do a lot of activities without much of a plan, because this is different, and it's a lot harder to do this without a plan if you're not used to it, right? Be interested in the kids. Laura, who runs camp with us, always says it's so much easier if you get like a little bit lost on what you're talking about. Just call on someone and ask them a question. They'll give you something, and you can just keep going, right? It's the same it's the same in person, and it's even more true on Zoom. To buy yourself a second. When we say crush it, we just mean be more. Some people, like our staff, sometimes like to tell me that I'm being a little extra, but just bring it. Just bring a little more than you think you need to, because if we're in person, then my energy right now might seem like a lot too much, but on Zoom, like it's like Zoom steals some of the energy as it like goes through the internet. You know what I mean? So you got to bring an extra. You got to crush it, and then like Klee said, bring that extra narration. What's happening? Do a little bit extra understanding of that, because we don't have the same ability to walk around and kind of get close to someone who we think might be confused. We have to teach our whatever we're doing to the lowest like understanding level of what's happening, and we don't have a lot of the tricks that we normally have for kind of like individualized learning around, like if I notice that Astin maybe isn't quite getting it, I can go sit next to him and just be like, yo, dude, like here's da-da-da-da-da, right? So we have to make sure that everybody gets on that page in whatever way that might be. That's how we support them. In a second, we're going to go to questions. But Klee, did I miss anything?
That was beautiful. I was just putting in the chat, but I'll just say a lot of people pick up on hidden curriculum from like nonverbal cues, and you can't really do that on Zoom. So we ran a talent show last week, and like my mouth kind of hurt at the end because we streamed it live. So the whole time I was like, but you have to do that a lot bigger on Zoom than you would in person.
Awesome. Astin, we're 3 minutes late, but you ran the music a little bit. You ran the music 1 minute long, so we're only 2 minutes late. I think we're right on time. What kind of questions does everybody have? How can we be useful right now?
When y'all are playing the last word game, how are you defining like the cutoff for that? Because obviously, as we've all learned in our breakout rooms, it will continue to go.
Yeah. We usually, we've done it a couple of different ways where it can be like you say, we're going to do 4 rounds back and forth, but I don't like that one as much because sometimes it's getting funnier. So we tend to just like cut it off the way that I did with you and Ian, where I just was like, and that's the time. Are we running smaller groups? We are typically running groups of about 10 people. And so the word game would be like laughing together, but we would play it for longer. So we might play that for 20 minutes so that everyone gets a chance to go. And then we would laugh along as it was happening. More likely than we would split into breakout rooms. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's a hard and fast rule. But
also, if you're meeting with a group consistently, it could become a time filler. So let's say you're waiting for the facilitator who's doing a craft to show the group what they just cut. You might say, let's do 1 round of last word. It could become common language so that you have that time filler if you need it. Just like we have songs or quick games at camp that we do while we're waiting for things to happen.
We just ran 7 weeks of online programming. We just finished, and we actually aren't running anything right now. We're taking a 2-week break, and we just did a huge brainstorm around what it's going to look like. And we are running most of our kids come for 1 or 2 hours a day, not for like the full day. So what we found is that it's not for our kids right now, because, and I think part of this is because they have school right now, as well as doing these kind of things, that they don't want to be on Zoom for more than a couple hours every day. There are a couple of kids who come on for like the whole day, but for us, it's easier to run more hours of programming for kind of 10-ish kids at a time than to try and figure out how to get all the kids on for like, you know, get like all 50 kids that might participate in a day on at the same time. Are you, Astin mentioned the importance of disclaimer for virtual sessions with minors. Yes, AM Skyer just sent there. Nice. Boom. Astin, you're so fast. That's so cool. I think we have all the, yes. Did I miss any questions? Astin, what?
I have one.
No, please. Yeah, Kels.
What's the smallest amount or the minimum number that you're running a group for or have?
So we are changing things a little bit. We started running because we just jumped in. We were like, all right, here we go. And so we had like basically drop-in calls. So some of them got to as small as like 2 kids, and we've had some of those drop-in hours we've had no one come to. So we have 2 staff just sitting there like, really? Okay, here we go. Which is like sad, but it's, you know, it's the world that we're like learning how to do this, right? So no shame from me if you have no one come to a call. That has happened to us, and it will happen to us again. We're now moving a lot more to kids signing up for either what we're calling week-long options or season-long options. A season for us is going to be, we're going to run a 5-week season because it makes sense for when schools get out in New York State. And then they'll come consistently. And for those, I think our smallest one has been 4 or 5 kids that have registered, and we've still run it. But we do still have some drop-in classes. I don't know if we call them classes, sessions maybe. And those sessions some of them have been, you know, as small as 1 or 2 kids. But we always have 2 staff to make sure we keep the rule of 3 for us. And for us, what we mean by rule of 3 is at least 3 people are in any room at a time. You may use different language around that, truddies or whatever. We call it the rule of 3.
One, like, do away with backlight, because unless it's like a window like far in your background like Jack, that's good. But you want to eliminate like any distractions you have behind you. And sometimes backlight makes it hard for people to see what you're doing. So a good way to test that out is get somebody to log on to the Zoom meeting before you host participants and be like, hey, is this a good setup? And if it's not, rearrange your setup. The other thing is like a ceiling fan. If there's a ceiling fan going on in the background, that gets dizzy for a lot of people. So just think about that. But if you're going to do that, make sure that your background that you are showing your virtual background on is flat. Like, because otherwise you're going to have like the disappearing hand or like the disappearing head kind of thing. An easy way to fix that is just take like a camp sheet that you would normally use on your bunk at camp and hang that from the wall. Like, you can thumbtack it up, you can use like painter's tape, but it creates a flat surface for those virtual backgrounds. The other thing is, if you're unmuted and your video is on, you are on. So that's where the juice comes in. Like, we are all like Broadway or like soap opera actors now. So whatever you would do, or that persona that you need to take on to be on like Guiding Light or As the World Turns, that's what you need for this session.
Deb asks, did you talk about running ceremonies in a previous session? We talked a little bit about it. Mostly we talked in the last session about ways to bring camp to the Zoom call. But Klee, we want to do beads really quick?
Great.
Okay, so we do something at our camp that we call beads. There's nothing to do with beads when we do it on Zoom, but normally kids would take a bead from a bucket, and then they would put it on their like bracelet or necklace or whatever. And but it's really just a gratitude circle, and we just popcorn around. And in this case, I'm talking that people can choose to jump in at any point, and they just say something that they are grateful for or an aha moment that they've had. So like a moment that they realize something. And then the kids added that they like to also have ha-ha moments. Sometimes they they tell like something quick that's funny and silly. We asked the kids only go once, but I am bringing this up because you probably all have like a lot of different types of ceremonies that you do at camp. And sometimes those ceremonies are a lot of times the best, because we can set some tones that are different that we might not be able to do on Zoom. So like we do our closing ceremony where we do something similar to this with all of camp, where the kids, you may do this too, are like, it's dark and they're putting wish boats in the lake, you know, with a candle, and it's beautiful and all that kind of stuff, right? You may sit around a campfire or light a torch or some of that stuff. And we can't necessarily get all the way there, but we might be able to get a lot closer than you would think matters. So if you can have a wish boat for us is just a piece of 2x4 with a little hole in it and a candle. If you just have one that you can light. Klee has with her right now the candle that we use during staff orientation for beads. She has it there because we've been doing staff meetings and doing beads with our staff. Little reminders like that can go a huge distance for you. So, you know, like I'm wearing a staff t-shirt, wearing, or having, you know, you might have like 5-year paddles, or you might, those little mementos that you have at camp, bringing them on screen, it doesn't seem like it would matter. And I think it matters a huge deal. And then can you take the ceremony that maybe did a little bit more of kids watching because it was so beautiful or so immersive that they could do that? Can we give them a chance to talk a little bit so that they're engaged a little bit more, because they're maybe not as into just looking at the screen as they might be kind of in awe of the beauty sitting under the stars or those kind of things. So you want to do a little round of beads before we close out, Klee? Awesome. I'll go first, and then anyone can just jump in, and it'll be funny because we'll talk over each other a little bit, and then we'll have to work it out, and that is how it works. So I'm grateful right now for yesterday. It was so nice out. No, Sunday, it was so nice out, and I'm really grateful that I got to spend the day outside, and we just like grilled sausages and hung out, and it was just so fun to be outside in this kind of weird, strange world. So now I'm going to mute myself and let anybody jump in with a grateful or an aha moment that they've had in the last few days.
I'm grateful for a safe trip back from the beach, and I just got into my house. So hello, everyone.
I am grateful. We just did a virtual camp for our women's retreat, and it was very successful. The team really came together, and yeah, just troubleshooted, problem solved, and had some fun.
I'm grateful to be able to work from home, so I don't take that for granted at all.
I, like Beth, am grateful that our first retreat went well, our first virtual retreat went well, and I'm really grateful right now that we own our own facility and have access to a place to be able to do these things like you mentioned. We just
ran a couple weeks ago a teen retreat that's probably similar to the wellness retreat that you ran. It was a little more intensive, shorter time period, and we're going to talk about kind of lessons learned from that, where we're going with our teen programming ideas, and kind of how we're thinking about structuring that kind of stuff. And with that, I'll say the big door that we are seeing opening is similar to what you talked about with your women's wellness retreat, which is there's more grown-ups, especially this like age that Klee and I fall into, I think, of like 20s to 30s, that are willing to come on to Zoom and have a more structured kind of experience. And come on and do some kind of a retreat, some kind of maybe like a family reunion. There's grown-ups that are willing to come onto Zoom and they're looking for people to lead them through something instead of just like many of you probably have gone on like family Zoom calls and it's like kind of a nightmare and you're like looking around like who's in charge and everyone's talking over each other. And so I think that there's a big opportunity to engage volunteers and donors in more structured activities, like as our, because we need to raise a bunch of money at our little nonprofit. So we've got to engage some people in ways that we can't necessarily do the way we thought we were going to.